Hi there. I'm glad to see you again. I just wanted to talk to you today about food, um, particularly what I grew up with and how I've handled what I eat and the things I eat. I think sometimes when you look at what somebody else does, it kind of gives you um, some sort of a framework to work with if you're wondering what is right for you. So you got a choice. So the sort of things I wanted to speak about, uh, it include things like I know you know what's really good for you, but we have this sense of being adventurous where we think we can, oh, I don't feel like cooking, so I'll just order in, or I'll go out and eat instead. And of course, it's fast food and places like that you go, or the cheapest place you can afford. And you must know inside your heart there that these places are not creating stuff that's good for you. And I know you rationalize to say, well, gee whiz, it was nice and fast and I didn't have to cook it. But you're really not doing yourself a favor. And I don't mean just for today, I mean long term, because you have no idea what it does to you as you do this throughout your life. It's like putting money in the bank sort of thing. You keep piling that in, and eventually it will produce, an effect. And that's what's happening. So I want to suggest to you, first of all, I know that sometimes say we don't have the room to create, say, a garden for ourselves, but I want you to seriously think about this because it's something I did that I have never regretted. Um, all through my life, it was either my parents who had a garden, or when I grew up, I had it myself. And right through, when when I was married and so forth, there was always a garden. And I think the reason for that is I realized very early on that food actually tastes like food if you grow it in your own garden. And it's rather shocking to me, but if you go back a number of years, which is when I was born, um, which is after the war, then you're looking at food actually being food. It took them many years to figure out that they could distort what was real and make it into something that they called food, but which was really something else. Um, and to try and package it and sell it as the same thing or a variation thereof. And of course, it isn't. There's no nutrition left. They've added all kinds of terrible chemicals and given it shelf life with all kinds of chemicals as well. So what you're left with is tasty only because they throw in stuff like salt and lots of these seed oils and things like that, and or sugars and stuff like that to make it go down okay. It tastes reasonably good, and to give you the illusion that it's food. But if you look at the packages, I know there's a lot of chemical names and things like that on it, so you really don't know what it is. But if there's just a couple of ingredients and they're natural, you know that what you're eating is something that your body will accept as something it can grow on. So there isn't really any excuse when you think about it for not treating yourself better. So I was lucky, yes. My parents instilled early on that it was a good idea to grow your own food. But of course, I'm learning about things like gardening so that your soil is decent. You're watering at the appropriate times and not too much. And you're not putting chemicals on it. You want it as natural as possible because what goes into those veggies is what's in the soil. So if you don't have good soil, you're not doing yourself a favor either. So in that case, maybe you might be better off putting it into containers and things like that, where you can control what's what you're putting into the pots or what you're putting into your beds, your raised beds, that sort of thing. If you don't have a lot of room, maybe you're in an apartment or something and you just got a little balcony. Well, there's lots of things now that you can use where they're multi-containers in one unit where you can put all kinds of things. Concentrate, in that case, on things like something that can be an additive to the foods you're eating that are fresh. Like green onions and maybe some kale and lettuce and things like that. Think about it. Think about the sort of things that would improve the meal and also be healthy at the same time. Even a glass sitting in the window where you've got green onion heads growing or something like that is better than what you're going to get when you go to the grocery store. Because even though in the grocery store it says it's fresh, you have no idea about the soil conditions. You don't know if it was sprayed and treated with all kinds of stuff to keep the insects away and all of that. So, the soil in farms gets depleted in terms of nourishment after a while, and that means you're not getting anything good for you in your veggies. So I implore you to try on your own to create something. And the whole process, that feeling that you did it yourself, makes you feel so good because it is something that is rather magical. It's beautiful that you can feed yourself, that you can do that yourself. And you will find that as you go along, you get better and better at it, and you concentrate on things that you actually enjoy and that you will eat. You're not wasting anything. Um, it's an activity that makes sense these days. And I think no matter where you are or what you're doing, this is something that you're going to be able to fall back on. It's going to save you money too, especially now when everybody's suffering with that. So think about that. And as well as creating gardens, um, we also had flowers and things like that, uh, that were interspersed because things like that and herbs and whatnot actually help your garden as well. And they help the insects, especially the bees that we love and the hummingbirds and all kinds of other critters. So you're helping the whole ecosystem by doing that as well. So think about that. And if you're in a space where you think, you you can't possibly do that, even in a small way, well, then reassess where you are and what you're doing because your health in general needs something natural around you. Like going for a walk is wonderful, but if you're that far from anything that's natural, you're breathing in whatever it is that's noxious, that's not good for you. So you need to really reassess that too. Where are you living? Are you living in a place that raises your spirits? It's something I always thought about. So no matter where I lived, I preferred, if I could, maybe you get into a house that was had two different families, one on either side, that kind of thing, or maybe you could rent the whole place. You could afford to back then. I know things are expensive now, but I always tried to get into a place that wasn't controlled necessarily by somebody else's rules, where I could have the opportunity because it was a big thing for me to be healthy. So I grew up having gardens around me and kept on doing that. And then the things that I grew that I knew I would eat, things that would save me money. And I learned how to store them. You know, like there's all kinds of ways now where you can store things. You can ferment things, you can freeze dry them, you know, you can put them in the freezer. A good old standby. You can preserve them in jars, you know, that kind of thing. And you can make your own pickles and stuff like that, like to use up all the odds and ends, and it's amazing. And one of the things I did as I was getting older was to do a lot of research on the different foods and what they do for the body. And I started to read the labels to find out what was going on. And I'd look things up and I'd look at studies that have been done by scientists and by doctors and so forth. I wanted to find out what was going on, like why were people getting diseases and what could I do for myself? So I spent a lot of time figuring all this out. So a lot of things I do are more natural. For example, you know, might make my own creams and moisturizers and that sort of thing. Or maybe way back I was making my own soaps, and I was even at one point making my own bread. But now I'm happy to grow certain grains and things like that I can throw into what I do have. Like when I'm making something, I don't eat a lot of bread, and that's because the breads that you buy in the store tend to be very processed, and there's so many additives in them. It gives you sugar spikes to start with, and that's not good. So I don't do that unless I can freeze, and is going to be. I'm thinking here of sprouted bread, that sort of thing. And I keep it in the freezer just because I don't eat a lot of it, so I want to keep it fresh. So I want to thank you for coming by, and I hope that some of the things I've said are helpful. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me hear from you. I love to know how people are doing, and I think health is a big part of being happy. And thank you for watching my videos, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.